Welcome back into Spotlight on the Monday after the Super Bowl. So now we look ahead, taking a look at some NFL offseason key dates coming up in just about a week. Teams can start tagging those players. We have the Combine coming up, and then, of course, free agency beginning on March 11th, followed by the draft. And free agency is where we want to begin, or I should say pick back up with Ryan Wilson and John Breech. Each of them have given us their top free agents. And Ryan, you mentioned him several times. Rashid Shaheed, now Super Bowl winner with the Seahawks. Why is he at the top of the list for you?
Yeah, he's an under the radar guy for me. We know about the big names, but guys that maybe you can get at a bargain quotations mark to help your football team. We know the Seahawks traded for Shaheed at the trade deadline, and he paid immediate dividends. He's not going to be a wide receiver 1. He could be a wide receiver 2 or 3, and he adds something to the return game, and he wins down the field consistently on deep routes. And we saw that. All that came together once he arrived in Seattle, and I think he makes a lot of sense for teams that need speed. And some names that come to mind, Amanda, for not $30 million a year. The Buffalo Bills might be interested in someone like Rashid Shaheed to pair off at opposite Keon Coleman should he be back. The Pittsburgh Steelers and the Kansas City Chiefs are two other teams that could be in the market for speedy wide receivers to help diversify their wide receiver room, And I think there's going to be a real market for him. The only question is, does Seattle want to give some of that $75 million salary cap space to bring him back to keep that wide receiver room intact, along with, of course, JSN and Cooper Kupp?
Let's look at another offensive weapon here. And, John, you have running back Breece Hall, who's been with the Jets. By the way, sent out a tweet last night. I hope I get to experience football on this stage. Everything's on the line. I'll get there one day. I know it. So he would like to get there sooner rather than later. What are your thoughts on Breece Hall as a free agent?
Well, based on that tweet, it sounds like he plans on leaving the Jets because he's not getting there anytime soon while he's playing for them. And look, Breece Hall was kind of one of the most underrated running backs in the NFL last year. This is a guy who played in a terrible offense where he was almost the only weapon, and he still rushed for more than 1,000 yards. And not only did he lead the Jets in rushing, but he had the second most receptions, and he was only 45 yards away from leading the team in receiving. So Breece Hall is absolutely a true dual threat running back who I think could help any team that not just needs that running back type player, but a guy who can catch passes out of the backfield. And you stare at teams like the Kansas City Chiefs. What would Patrick Mahomes do with a weapon like Breece Hall? We know in Denver, Sean Payton's been trying to find kind of a running back tandem. He had J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey this year. We don't know if Dobbins will be back in 2026. Maybe the Houston Texans, another playoff team that was kind of juggling with their running backs after Joe Mixon was lost to that mysterious injury. They had Nick Chubb, Woody Marks. There are plenty of teams that should be in the market for Breece Hall services, and plenty of good teams. So maybe if he's lucky, he could end up playing in the Super Bowl sooner rather than later.
I mean, just get to the playoffs, right? After being with the Jets, you just want to get to the playoffs. Ryan, you're looking at tight end Isaiah Likely, who's been with the Ravens. Look, this is somewhat of a new look team there with John Harbaugh gone. A lot of this is going to be built around Lamar Jackson. Isaiah Likely, what does his offseason look like?
Yeah, it was sort of surprising when the Ravens decided to extend Mark Andrews, the veteran, shout out to the Sooners, Amanda, as opposed to Isaiah Likely, who's just 25 years old out of Coastal Carolina. His rookie deal is up. When Mark was hurt last season, 2024, we saw a lot of Likely, and there was a lot to like about it. I think he's going to have a real market on the open market because of his versatility, his athleticism. He's a pretty good blocker, and we know he can win down the field. Again, teams that might be in the market for a tight end, Breech of Cincinnati Bengals, certainly he would look good there. The Washington Commanders, Zach Ertz towards ACL late in the season in his career. He may decide to retire if he hasn't already. And I think there is going to be a real market for him. But it won't be at, let's say, the Kyle Pitts market. So you can get a secondary market tight end in Isaiah Likely for a fraction of the cost, Amanda.
You know, I love Mark Andrews. It feels like he is like 39 instead of 30 years old. I don't know why. You mentioned Kyle Pitts. John, he is somebody you're looking at, obviously, this offseason.
Yeah, look at another tight end. This might be the best position out there in free agency. And Kyle Pitts has had an interesting career. He went off in his rookie year. We were all drafting him in fantasy football, and then year 2, 3, 4 kind of slumped. But guess what? He had that huge season crossing 1,000 receiving yards or getting near there right before he's about to hit free agency. That's exactly what you want to do. And I think if you look at modern NFL offenses, tight ends have really been thriving, and they can transform an offense if they're with the right coach. I mean, you look at what Colston Loveland did in Chicago, obviously what Travis Kelce's done in Kansas City, George Kittle in San Francisco. So if he can find the right team to play with, he could become a big weapon for them. And I just mentioned Travis Kelce. If he ends up retiring, and even if he stays, he probably has a year left. So I think Kyle Pitts could be an interesting addition in Kansas City. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have a lot of weapons. Interesting there. Maybe the Philadelphia Eagles. I think Kyle Pitts will have a lot of options.
The Chiefs have come up a lot because they do have a lot to figure out this offseason. Look, this was a season to forget for them. Ryan, going to the defensive side, you're looking at cornerback Jalen Watson, who already wrote a letter to Chiefs Kingdom saying, in case I'm not here, thank you for the past 4 years. Where do you think he ends up?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to watch unfold, Amanda, because that 2023 draft class in Kansas City was absolutely lights out and had a large part in their going back to the playoffs in the Super Bowl up until this year. They had George Karlaftis and Trent McDuffie in the first round of that class. Brian Cook, the safety, went in round 3. Isaiah Pacheco in the 7th round, along with Jalen Watson, a 7th rounder who has played every bit like a first-round pick. He is long, he is physical, he can play outside, and there's going to be a real market for him, and it may price him out of returning to Kansas City, hence that letter that he decided to write. Teams that certainly need cornerback help and will be sniffing around if their salary cap allows it. The Miami Dolphins, the Rams have a ton of needs, and they have a ton of guys up contract-wise, so they could be in the market. And then I love the idea of Brian Flores getting his hands on Jalen Watson in Minnesota. So there will be competition, and that will only drive his price up, and I suspect he is going to make a pretty penny by the time he puts pen to paper in the next.
Open a Chime checking account in 2 minutes, and we'll spot you up to $200.
In the next few months or so.
Staying on the defensive side, let's talk about the Bengals. And we have to talk about Trey Hendrickson. John, one of the biggest storylines for the first part of the season and the first part of preseason was Trey Hendrickson deciding to sit out there. And look, a lot of what I'm seeing is they could decide to tag him. Don't know if he would absolutely love that. Are we in for more Trey Hendrickson drama? And what's the market out there for him?
Yeah, we certainly could be in for some more drama. I do think the Bengals and the Trey Hendrickson are not really on good terms right now, so I would be surprised if they tagged him, unless it was a tag and trade of some sort. But I do think if he hits free agency, there is going to be a market, because there is always a market if you can rush the passer. And we are talking about a guy who led the NFL in sacks in 2024. We really saw this season how important it is to rush the passer. You look at the top 9 teams when it comes in terms of total sacks during the regular season. Well, 5 of them ended up making the playoffs. 3 of those 9 ended up in the conference title round. And of course, the Seattle Seahawks ended up winning the Super Bowl, ranking in the top 9 in total sacks during the regular season. If you can get after the passer, you can win in the NFL. So Trey Hendrickson would be a huge boost to a lot of teams out there. I mean, the Baltimore Ravens stealing him away would be interesting, but there are a lot of teams, maybe the Dallas Cowboys, but Trey Hendrickson is going to have his choice of teams if he hits free agency.
All right, Ryan, I'm going to bring up the Patriots O-line because they desperately need some help, as we know this. And a lot of Patriots fans were sounding off about potential free agents they could go after, and one of them, Rasheed Walker, and sure enough, he's one of your free agents or potential free agents to look at.
Yeah, you're reading my mind, Amanda, because as I was watching the game unfold last night, I was like, let's get Will Campbell some help, because this is not how you treat a young man in his first job. But Rasheed Walker, the former 7th-round pick out of Penn State, could have gone much higher than that. He's insanely athletic. He started 48 games the last 3 years. We'll see if there's room for him in Green Bay to be brought back salary cap-wise. They did draft Jordan Morgan a few years ago, but I think there's going to be a real market for him. Whether the Patriots do it, we'll have to see, because then you got to move Will Campbell around. But he is going to have some interested suitors, because there's always need for left tackles, especially athletic left tackles in the NFL.
I believe Will Campbell's probably in that ice bath still today, trying to recover from last night. Okay, one more O-lineman we're looking about, center Tyler Linderbaum. John, another player with the Ravens.
Yeah, anytime you can get a great starting offensive lineman, you got to do it. If you're an NFL team, Linderbaum is a 3-time Pro Bowler. If he hits free agency, his phone is going to be ringing. I think an interesting pairing could be in New York, maybe a reunion with John Harbaugh. But look, Linderbaum is one of the top centers in the NFL, and kind of what Ryan was talking about with the left tackle. If you get someone at that position available, you need to call and see if he's willing to play for you, because he would be an upgrade for almost any offensive line in the NFL.
We appreciate it. Gentlemen, speaking of the offseason, Ryan, As you texted me last night, it is officially draft season. Ryan, the host of With the First Pick podcast, we are only 73 days away from the NFL draft coming up on April 23rd. I can guarantee you it is going to fly by. Ryan now with his 7th mock draft. We're going to talk about that later in this show, but make sure to tune in if you haven't already.